What is up, guys? Welcome to another video, and today we have got another Ask Hippo, another great bunch of questions, and I am here to answer them for you. Obviously, this is the weekly series where we go ahead and answer the questions that you left in last week's comment section, and today is no different. So without further ado, let's get into this week's questions. Okay, so our first question is from Japan Drifter HD, and his question is it true that you smoke weed with Snoop Dogg, and what's your favourite food of all time? So, number one, yes. He obviously, Snoop Dogg, he's Snoop Doggy Dogg. I'm actually Snoop Hippo. But nothing's really been released yet, but that is actually completely 100% factual. Number two, favourite food? This changes every time I answer it. My current favourite food probably is just any burger with some pop some bacon on, pop some some nice cheese of some sorts. Put any cheese on, really. I really couldn't care less. Pop a bit of tomatoes on, lettuce, a bit of English mustard. I love a bit of English mustard on my burgers. Bit of barbecue Jack Daniel's sauce. That's always a bit nice. Just a burger, really. Any burger, as long as it's like actually home cooked, or a Burger King burger. I'm not a big fan of like Big Macs and stuff. They just don't taste nice. But yeah, I think I'm a burger guy now. Like, I used to be a really big kind of like pork rib guy. Like, if you guys know what, I'm pretty sure you guys will know what pork ribs are. But yeah, I used to love my barbecue ribs. But now I'm more of a burger guy. I don't know. I think I've slowly changed over the years, and now I'm generally more of a burger guy. Okay, next up we have Neelix Gaming, aka the Dark Destroyer, aka Philip Britsky, and his question is, which out of the top 3 NFSs would you want to have a remastered for next gen? That makes no sense. So basically, what 3 NFSs would I want to see remastered for next gen? So obviously these are old ones. So Underground 2, Underground 1, and Most Wanted 2005 in kind of like a black box collection pack. I think that would be really cool. Pop Carbon in there as well, YOLO, and have them all remastered for Xbox One and PS4. Kind of like how Halo did it with the Master Chief Collection. Have like a black box collection or an Underground collection or something. Just name it something across those lines. Maybe like the classic hits or something, I don't know. That would actually been something great to release last year, obviously, because we had that kind of break where Need for Speed was kind of dead for a bit. I think that would have been a really good thing to do last year whilst we were waiting for another game. But EA aren't as as business minded as I am. I mean, if I was at the board at EA, they would be making so much more money than they are now, and they would have happy fans too. So that's what I would have personally done with the Need for Speed series in its year break. It keeps the series alive. It keeps people anticipated for Need for Speed 2015, and I think overall it would have been a very, very good decision from EA, and obviously all the Ghost devs as well. But hey ho, what can you do? I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it would have sold a lot as well. Like, that would have actually sold a lot. But that's what I would have done personally. Okay, the next question is from Flatfall Gaming, and it is a bit weirdly kind of formatted on your screen, but it doesn't really matter. You can still see the questions. So he's got 3 questions. His questions are stancing or no stancing, an old F1 or modern F1, and BMW or Mercedes. So number 1, depends on what car. If it's like an import tuner with an RB kit on, like a GT86, then yes. If it's a Bugatti Veyron, no. Old F1 or modern F1. Never really watched old F1 because I wasn't born, so modern. I don't know. I think like the Ayrton Senna era was quite good, but I was never alive. I was never in the moment, if you know what I mean. So I can't really say, but I would have to say modern because that's the only thing I've really experienced. And BMW or Mercedes, every single day of the week it's BMW. Mercedes, I think they're a bit overpriced for what they are. The SLS and the the new, is it the AMG GT or whatever it is, just doesn't really appeal to me. The only nice car I think Mercedes have made is the SLR, and that was in conjunction with McLaren. So I don't know. I don't really know. I just don't think that Mercedes kind of appealed to me. I think everything that BMW do, they do with a certain kind of class. The M3, the M4, the M5, they're all nice, You've got the 1 Series M Coupe, it just looks nice. And I think everything BMW do, they do it at a certain level, which Mercedes just don't. It's just a bit overpriced for what it is at Mercedes. So yeah, every single day of the week. For me personally, it's BMW. Okay, next up we have the Professional Drift, and he has got a few questions. So, number 1, Need for Speed Rivals or The Crew? Number 2, what's your favourite Fast and Furious movie? And number 3, Forza 5 or GT6? And lastly, would you like to have neons in the next NFS? So, Rivals or The Crew? That's hard It's a really hard question because Rivals was made in 3 months, and that definitely shows. But then the Crew, the physics are awful. The game, like the map, it just is bland. Everywhere seems the same. Like if you go to LA, it seems the same as Las Vegas. There isn't any kind of authenticity there. So it is hard. But they're both very average games. In their own rights. Rivals for 3 months was an outstanding game, but then the Crew, for what it was also very average. It wasn't anything amazing. But I'll probably say the Crew, for the basic reason it has a lot more variation than Rivals, and a lot less bugs. You could probably play, if I had to pick one and just play it for as long as possible, I could probably play the Crew longer than Rivals and probably not get bored. To be honest, that's on subject to change. I'll probably change that opinion in the future, but as of now, probably the Crew. But I don't have the Crew installed on my computer, but I do have Rivals installed, so maybe that says something, I don't know. But number 2, my favourite Fast and Furious movie. I think I've answered this before. As you guys know, I'm a huge Fast and Furious fan. If I can, I'll bring a photo up now. I've actually got the 2 posters from the first and the second film above my setup, which is really cool. But my favourite Fast and Furious is probably the first. The first, I think, was the best for the basic reason. It was different, you know. Obviously, it had the kind of the import tuner scene, the street racing scene, and the heists all together, and it was all very well blended together. So I'd say personally, the first one was the best. Although Tokyo Drift is a very close second, and Too Fast, Too Furious is also a very close one. I wouldn't say Furious 7 is anywhere near my top 3, but yeah, I think the ones more about racing and actual import tuners and stuff are more towards the top of the ladder because they're about racing and stuff, and that's kind of more my kind of thing. Number 3, Forza 5 or GT6. Every single day of the week it's GT6. Forza 5 is shit. Don't buy it if you already have. If you haven't already, don't buy that game. The physics are awful. You can't drift to save your life. And it is just awful. It's an awful game. Don't get it. GT6 Master Race. And then lastly, would I like to see neons in an NFS game? Oh, of course I would. OTT customization needs to be key in Need for Speed 2015. And from what we've seen so far, it looks to be the case. So yay. Yay. Okay, next up we have the Big Bad Gamer, and his questions are: what is your most favourite underrated band? Would you like to work at Ghost Games? And what would you say to Marcus Nielsen if you met him in real life? So number 1, my most favourite. I don't really listen to bands, so to say. Let me quickly go down through my Spotify right now. I've just got Pro Street right now. I don't really know. I don't really listen to bands. I'm more of just like kind of. Bands are more associated with kind of like indie rock, and I'm not a big fan of indie rock. I mean, Limp Bizkit are alright. Don't really know. I don't know. I'm very broad in my music taste. Haven't got like a specific range. I can't answer that question because I don't really listen to many quote unquote bands. So yeah, I don't know. NA. It's just NA. Number 2, would I like to work at Ghost Games? I think this is a yes and no answer. For the basic reason, you're going to have so much pressure on you. It'd be so hard to cope, say, if you didn't get what you wanted with the game, if the fan reception wasn't as good. You've got we both know that there's a lot of trolls in the racing community. A lot of people who air their opinions in special ways. I'm emphasizing the special right now. There's a lot of people who are just quite blatantly inconsiderate and ignorant, and just completely they convey their feelings and opinions in the just wrong way, in a rude way, and you'd have to deal with all them people. And as a YouTuber, I guess you kind of have to do that too, but you have more control over that as a YouTuber because you can block them, you can tell them just to chill, or chill out, bro, otherwise things will happen, but if you're a developer, you can't just tell them not to buy your game, you can't really block, you can't really go around that, but at the same time you can create, especially if you're an NFS fan, what you believe is the perfect NFS, and be a part of that. And to be a part of a game that sells millions upon millions upon millions, and listening to fans, and doing all that kind of stuff, that's great. So if I had the expertise in, coding and game design and whatnot, I think I would. But obviously I don't. So if I was literally given a job right now, I'd be like, told you to come over. Unless it was a community manager role, which I think that would be so cool as a first job. Well, I guess if you don't count YouTube as a job, that would be my first job. But yeah, if I was to be given a community manager role right now, I'd quite gladly accept it. But any other role, like a design role, I'm just not fit for that job, and I don't want to hinder the games. You know, I want the best for Need for Speed, and I don't think I would be able to, you know, enhance the game as an engineer, because I have no, you know, idea on how to go around things. And then lastly, what would I ask Marcus Nilsson if I met him in real life? This actually might happen in September when I go to EGX, because I might be going to a press conference, and he may or may not be there, which would be pretty cool. He was there last time when Rivals was being showcased. But what would I ask him? Oh, and I guess I could have asked him if I went to the Ghost event, but that was sad news. What would I ask him? What does it mean to make Need for Speed? And then I'd record it and put it in the documentary, because that's kind of like one of the key themes throughout the documentary. Yeah, that's a shameless plug there, right there. That's such a shameless plug. Okay, up next we have Silverfox687, aka Charlie, the petrol head, and his question is, he's just bought a PS2. This is the situation, he's just bought a PS2, and he is asking for recommendations on games that he should buy besides Underground 1 and Underground 2. So obviously, besides the obvious Need for Speed games, like Carbon and Most Wanted and Hot Pursuit 2, Hot Pursuit 2 would be a great pickup. Hot Pursuit 2, I think it has G27 wheel support. It's not very good at all. But yeah, Hot Pursuit 2 would definitely be one. It's such a good game on the PS2, far superior than the PC version of the game. What other games were good back then? Sonic Heroes, that was a good fucking game. Obviously, you got GT4, which I know you've bought. Auto Midlista, which I know you've bought. Initial D, is it Street Stage or something like across those lines, like Arcade Stage? That's another good game. Basically anything that you enjoyed back then. It's hard just to kind of take recommendations, because it's more to do with nostalgia. You're not going to go back to a PS2 game and think, oh my god, this is so technically amazing, and no. It's more just to kind of relive memories. So it really depends. Okay, next up we have Ski Stam, and his question is, do you care about keeping the box in good condition for your favourite games, such as Most Wanted 2005 and Underground 2? Now, fun story about those two games specifically. I actually didn't get Underground 2 you know, the way that you're supposed to. My dad got it for me for Christmas, and let's just say it wasn't the most legit of copies. So I never actually had an Underground 2 disc until very recently, when I bought it for PS2 like 2 years ago. But Most Wanted 2005, I actually don't know where my disc has gone. My disc, my case, I bought that legit, and I don't know where it's gone. So that's a bit annoying. But generally, do I care about keeping my games in good condition? I do. Keeping my games in good condition is just one of those things which I feel like if the box is all scratched up and it's got like fucking tomato sauce all over, it just doesn't like it doesn't seem special, you know. And I like to keep everything in pristine condition. I guess this is kind of me being a bit of a clean freak in a way. But yeah, I generally do like to keep my games in good condition. For no other reason, it just looks good if they're all in nice condition. I mean, a lot of the game, I'm missing a lot of the Need for Speed games. I mean, all the PS1 era, I need to buy all them. I'm missing Most Wanted 2005, because obviously I lost that for my PC, as well as a few others. So I do kind of need to rebuild my collection back up, and when I do, I will have a video on that. But yeah, you'll see I really do like to keep my games in good condition, because it just looks nice, you know. I mean, there's no other way around it. It looks nice, and it looks appealing to look at, which is a very weird thing to say, but yeah. Okay, up next we have McRacer GT2, and he has got 4 questions. So number 1, how would you react if the Top Gear Trio was in the next Need for Speed story? Which editing software do you recommend to YouTubers, I guess is what that means? The R35 or a 911? And am I allowed to keep in-game music for YouTube videos? So number 1, I'd be very disappointed if the Top Gear Trio was in an Underground game, like what, Need for Speed 2015. For the exact reason that it is Need for Speed 2015. So imagine Clarkson coming in halfway through Need for Speed 2015, like you've just been busted, and he just comes in like with a donut, and he just starts eating a donut. That would be so awkward and weird, and just no. So I'd be very annoyed. I'd be very, very annoyed. Number 2, what editing software do I recommend? Now, if you are starting YouTube, I recommend you do use something professional. Don't go into Movie Maker, because otherwise you'll get into bad habits. Trust me, take this from me. I do know. I've been there myself, and it also gives you a certain aspect of quality to your videos if you're using something professional. Like what I use I use Adobe Premiere Pro, although I know a lot of people use Sony Vegas. I've used both. I've used Final Cut Pro X, I've used Premiere Pro, I've used everything. But for me personally, if you have a Mac, definitely go Final Cut Pro X. It's the best editing software you will find. But if you're on Windows, then definitely use Adobe Premiere Pro. That's what I use personally. And it is the best editing software I can find. I've used Vegas, and the rendering times are a lot slower on Vegas. I find it, obviously it's kind of down to preference, but I think Premiere Pro is a lot easier to kind of navigate in terms of editing and stuff. And just kind of getting used to Premiere Pro, I find, is a lot easier than Vegas. Vegas is a lot more kind of like complicated in a bad way. It's a lot more complicated, and it's less advanced. I mean, a Premiere Pro, like a lot of people who make movies and kind of make all those types of things, they use Premiere Pro. Like I know the guys over at Halo, they use Premiere Pro. A lot of the EA guys use Premiere Pro. I mean, the guys who made Avatar, I believe, use Premiere Pro, and a lot of other people. So I would say try out Sony Vegas and Premiere Pro if you're on Windows. But if you're on Mac, definitely go ahead and get Final Cut Pro X. It's the best editing software ever. And I really wish that they brought something over similar on Windows, because it is really a stellar editing software. I almost forgot about the last question then. We've still got 2 more questions to answer. Number 3, an R35 or a 911. Probably the R35. I just prefer the GTRs over the 911s. I'm kind of more of a Japanese guy over kind of the German engineering. I just kind of prefer the kind of Japanese cars. I think generally Japanese cars have more soul to them than the 911. I mean, German cars, they tend to be kind of like robotic in a way, if you know what I mean. Very precise, very clean, very cut, but they don't have an awful lot of soul, which the Japanese cars have. I think you'll find that the cars that have more soul are the cars that have more faults, and that's what makes that car so good, is when it has faults, because it kind of has a bit more oomph to it. Like if you're driving a 911 and you don't feel like you're literally gonna die around the next corner, then it's not good. It's not good enough. You need to feel like, especially in the supercar, that if you go into the next corner, you need to be fearing for your life. You need to be scared to put your foot down. You need to be scared of the beast. And I couldn't imagine a 911 doing that. And then lastly, are you allowed to use in-game music for YouTube videos? I do. I answered this last week, and with the kind of copyright thing. Yeah, I do. If I get copyright flagged, then all it means is that I can't monetize the video, so it's not too much of a hassle, really. The one video that I do want to keep monetizable is the documentary, for the basic reason that it's something you put a lot of effort into, and especially monetary wise, you kind of want to get something out of it. It's been a year's worth of work, and literally not to get anything out of it would be a bit disappointing. So I would like that to get it. So I'm still kind of worried. I'm kind of like checking my surroundings in terms of copyright over that. But if it's just like a normal Let's Play or something, just go ahead and use it. It doesn't really matter, as long as you're down for not making money on that video, then it should be alright. But it's not like it really matters. I mean, let's be honest. Especially if you're small, you're not going to be making that much money off YouTube. So I would quite gladly use music on videos. It really doesn't matter. Okay, and the last question is from Feeling the Dragon, and he's got 3 questions. So number 1. Most underrated game of all time. I think I answered that already, but I'll answer it again. Number 2, if you were to go to something like a fancy dress party, what would you dress? Oh my god, what would you do? What would you dress up as? I really can't speak today. I'm stuttering for days. And number 3, dragons or werewolves. Very weird question for that last one. Number 1, most underrated game. I mentioned this actually in Drivecast yesterday for the most underrated Need for Speed. I thought it was actually Hot Pursuit 2 on PS2. A lot of people overlook that game when they're listing their favourite Need for Speeds. It's actually one of the best Need for Speeds ever made, IMO. But most underrated game of all time? That's hard. I think Trackmania 1. That was a really, really good game, and I think it's mainly underrated because not a lot of people know about it. But Trackmania 1 was a fucking game. Oh my Jesus Christ, that game was so good, you know, especially for like a game that came out in 2003. There was so much you could do. You could create your own tracks, literally whatever you wanted. It had, you know, all those different types of terrain. You had the desert terrain, you had the alpine terrain, the country terrain, which was kind of like a UK medieval area, which was cool. Trackmania was a quality game, and I really think they've just, I think Trackmania as a series is really underrated. Especially as, you know, Trackmania Nations Forever, that shit's free, and it is so fun. So I'd definitely say Trackmania 1 is one of the most underrated games of all time. It is so fun, and I swear, if you guys can still run that shit, get it, download it, play it. It is so fun, really, really is. Number 2, if I had to go to something like a fancy dress party, what would I dress up as? Holy fuckballs, there's a lot of things I could dress up as. A hippo? I guess that is a logical thing. Just dress up as a hippo because, yeah. I mean, yeah. Maybe slap train. Oh god. As Theo said yesterday, I could dress up as a dank ass ghetto hoe. that's what CJ said, not me. And number 3, dragons or werewolves. Probably dragons. I don't know why I would have to pick between those two ever in my life. But if I did, it'd probably be dragons. So that is today's Ask Hippo. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to smack that like button, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Yeah, make sure to stay safe and stuff, and I will see you guys later. Peace.